I didn't grow up in a Christian home. My mum was a Christian and my dad was an atheist. And so the concept of tithing and offering was nothing that was ever introduced into my home. So I didn't really get introduced to this culture until 2018 when I joined the academy in Hereford. It was an amazing year, and while I was on that, I was learning principles about what God has called us to as leaders in the church. And one of the things that we were taught on is the notion of tithing. And at the time I was working a full-time job alongside academy, and so to tithe wasn't a shocker. It wasn't a hard thing to do. I had the money to do it and I was willing to tithe. And it was a great time of learning principles around tithing and offering and stretching that. However, when I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2019 of August, it was a real season of transition. And learning American culture, American expenses was just a different environment for me. And as I moved here, I realized that my finances were being stretched and I had to learn to steward generosity and tithing and offering in a way that wasn't dictated on what I had in that season, but was remaining steadfast in the posture of giving. Then in 2020, we hit the pandemic and COVID, and that impacted the world, right? We were all affected by it. And in that time, I was made unemployed, unable to receive any benefits here in the USA other than a single stimulus check. And it was a really testing season for me. It was really hard to believe that I was going to see the funds that I needed to see and believe that God was going to come through. But I knew that God was calling me to a higher level of faith. I knew that God was allowing me to test my ability to give even in the seasons when I have lack. And so in that time, I remember being like, God, this is very little. I have nothing, but will you do something powerful with it? And I was able to give into the church and see the church multiply in that time. I was able to give into the EMF fund and see that multiply at the time. I was even able to receive personally from that fund and be blessed in that season. And God really began to stir this heart in me of generosity. He continued to provide and I felt so blessed. And then at the end of that season, I was like, I've done it. I've got through, it's okay. And then in end of 2020, October, I had a back injury and I became really increasingly unwell. I was in and out of A&E, so I was in the hospital on Thanksgiving evening and I was in and out of urgent care, and it just became a really stretching season. I lost my job because I was unable to work due to the pain in my back. I had no income for the month before that because of personal reasons, and so I was going 2 months in with no income, all these medical bills. And if you know anything about America, you're paying medical bills and you have no idea how much that will be. You have no idea what you're going to be charged. And so I'm going into the hospital. I'm admitted into hospital, really, if I'm honest, in fear, thinking I'm not even worried in fear about my health. I'm worried in fear about my finances. I'm worried, am I even going to be able to pay this visit? Am I going to be able to pay to see this healed and this illness gone? And I remember praying to God and saying, God, I don't understand why I'm going through this again. I don't understand why there's a lack. I don't understand why I've lost this job. I don't understand why I don't have the means that I need in this season. But I know that you are good and I know that you are faithful. And one specific week, I remember there was a specific day and God said to me, today I want you to give me $150 to your church. And I was like, on a normal season, $150, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like, that's okay, God, I can do this. But in that day, it felt like so much money. It felt so scary to me. I felt fearful around giving that money to God. And we want to keep control. And I remember God saying, loosen the control. Trust that I am the God who heals. I'm the God who provides. I'm the God who restores. And so I remember going onto my phone, getting up Venmo, clicking $150 and pressing send, and feeling this overwhelming sense of peace, knowing that, God, I did what you asked of me. God, I know that you're going to come through in this. And it wasn't easy. I was like, I can't do this. And the rest of the day I was praying to God and just saying, God, I want to be a willing giver. I want my heart to be pure in it. And then later on that day, I'm carrying on the day, and suddenly I get a text message from a friend who says, someone has anonymously donated $150 to you. And then throughout that week, God continued to multiply that by getting more generosity, more blessing, a job opportunity that came through. And God continued again and again to provide. And what I've learned from this season of the last year of financial stretching, of my faith being stretched, is that my tithing and my offering isn't dependent on what I have. It continues to be a heart posture of who I am as a daughter of a king. I'm somebody who wants to invest in my house. And I've learned that to be generous is to be blessed. To give is to be blessed. When we continue to bless the church, when we continue to give what is of God's, He will give back in abundance.